The 2012 presidential election is about less than 6 weeks away, and yay, all the negative campaign ads, yay. Well, so many other people, the talking heads on TV, people in the blogosphere, what have you, they weigh in with their own opinions, so I figured, what the hell, I might as well too. I love talking about politics. I don't know why, I just do. But it's time for me to throw in my 2 cents about who will win the 2012 presidential election. So to help better understand how the 2012 presidential election looks and is shaping up as of right now, it's important to go back and look at what happened in 2008. And that really started in 2006. Bush was an unpopular president. You had a huge anti-war sentiment running through this country, and the Democrats were able to take back both control of the House and the Senate, both houses of Congress, for the first time since 1994, when the Republicans had swept in behind Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. So come the presidential election of 2008, there was really a lot of carryover. Bush was an incredibly unpopular president, a large anti-war sentiment in this country, and you throw in there things like the housing crisis, the financial crisis, the banking crisis. Shouldn't be any surprise that Barack Obama and the Democrats were able to win the White House. And they did so in a big margin. Barack Obama ended up beating John McCain 365 to 173. Barack Obama tried to make as many states competitive as possible. Not only did him and his campaign, did they just want to win the 2008 election, they wanted to seismically shift the electoral map. And they did exactly that. They took 9 states that had been Republican in 2004, turned them Democrat, and even was able to take the 2nd Congressional District of Nebraska and turn that Democrat for the first time in, I believe, about 50 years. So when you look at it, not only did Obama win, not only did McCain, once he made that far-right neocon turn, have no shot, instead of staying like the moderate that he should have, Obama won by a big margin and really caused a seismic shift in the electoral map in a lot of ways. And he won by the biggest margin since when Clinton beat Dole in 1996. And that really is key to understand as to how the 2012 electoral map is currently set up and why Mitt Romney is facing a very uphill battle in his attempts to win the presidency. When you take a look at how the 2012 presidential electoral map looks right now, you can still see some of that seismic shift from 2008. Obama made a lot of... When we look at the presidential electoral college map for 2012, you can still see some of that seismic shift that I referenced earlier from 2008. The only state that Obama won in 2008 that is going to go back and be a safe Republican state in 2012 is Indiana, and that's it. When I look at electoral maps, there's a couple of different ones that I like looking at. Real Clear Politics is one, and they show right now a margin of 247 to 191 in favor of Obama in terms of solid Obama states, likely Obama states, and leaning Obama states versus solid, likely, and leaning Romney states. When I look at 270towin.com, they have it at 237 to 182 right now. I don't agree with Real Clear Politics in terms of they've classified Wisconsin as a leaning Obama state. Historically, it has been more of a Democratic state, but I'll still keep it as a toss-up for right now. 270 to win has South Carolina as a toss-up, as well as New Hampshire. And I don't think either one of those is necessarily a toss-up at the moment. I think South Carolina is at least a leaning, if not likely, Romney state. And New Hampshire is a leaning Obama state at the present time. I'm going to use Karl Rove's. That's right, Karl Rove, the mastermind behind Bush's 2000 and 2004 presidential election campaigns, the neocon himself. I'm going to use Karl Rove's website, rove.com, and their electoral map, which has things right now at 241 to 191. They've classified New Hampshire as a leaning Obama state, and they still have Wisconsin as a toss-up. And I think that's the closest to accurate. So that way you can't accuse me of a liberal bias in terms of the polling that I'm using. I'm using a freaking conservative electoral map, okay? And they show Obama's only significant loss from 2008 right now being Indiana, with 8 states that all went blue or Democrat in 2008 being the toss-ups. That's Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Virginia, and Wisconsin. That's 8. So there's not a lot of states in play in theory. Sure, things can happen where maybe one that's leaning Obama can come into the toss-up category, or one that's leaning Romney can come into the toss-up category. But I think it's safe to say that right now, these are the 8 most likely battleground or toss-up states. And again, I emphasize that all 8 of these went blue in 2008, yet only one of them, Wisconsin, by a very small margin, went for John Kerry and the Democrats in 2004. So it's not a surprise when you look at it to see why Kerry lost in 2004 to Bush by a small margin, yet Obama beat McCain in 2008 by a very big margin. What does Mitt Romney have to do in order to win this presidency? In order to have any realistic chance, ignore the national polling numbers that show him either tied with Obama, a point ahead, a point or 2 below, all this other bullshit. In order for Romney to have any real chance of winning the 2012 presidential election, he must turn Florida red. He must win the state that his former counterpart, George W. Bush, won in both 2000 and 2004. Florida was critical to George W. Bush's success in terms of being able to win 2 presidential elections. If Romney doesn't win Florida, it's not to say that he doesn't have any chance. He would have to basically win every other state that's a toss-up in order to win the presidential election. So basically, the odds would be definitely stacked against him. Whereas for Obama, he doesn't have to win Florida in order to win the election. He does not. So if anybody says Florida is critical to Obama, they're morons. They're dead damn wrong. In theory, Obama, based off of that 241 right now, would only need 29 more electoral votes. So yes, if he won Florida and lost the other 7 toss-ups, he would win. He would win 270 to 268, and that would be the end of the ballgame. But he could sit there because of all the seismic change that happened in 2008 in the electoral map. He could lose states like Florida. He could lose North Carolina. He could sit there and lose in Iowa. He could sit there and even in theory lose a Virginia. And he would still win the election. So basically right now what I'm trying to emphasize is that even though Obama's poll numbers are low in terms of his approval rating, the majority of people in this country are dissatisfied with his job performance and also with the direction of this country. Mitt Romney and the Romney-Ryan ticket have a lot of work to do in a very short time if they have any chance of winning the presidency at all. If Obama sits there and, let's say, wins Florida, he wins the election. If he wins Colorado, Nevada, Virginia, Wisconsin, he'll win the election. If he wins Nevada, Ohio, Virginia, he'll win the election. Ohio, Virginia, Wisconsin. So you see all these possibilities where he could still lose several of these battleground states and win the presidential election. And these are all toss-up states, all 8 of them, that he won in 2008. So Romney's at a definite disadvantage because at least at one point in time, Obama played well in each of these 8 states. He may not play as well now, but there's still a built-in advantage for the incumbent here. As far as the Obama campaign, the question that I have is with the seismic shift that they were able to make happen in 2008, are they going to try and swing for the fences and make an even bigger seismic shift to the electoral map in 2012? I think there are 4 states that the Obama campaign would like to be able to flip at least 1 or maybe 2. Obviously, they'd love to flip all 4 of them, but I think out of these 4 states, they want to try to really flip 1 or 2 of these. And if they do flip one of these somehow on election night, it's going to be a wipeout. Worse than what Obama did to McCain in 2008, along the lines of what Clinton did to Dole in 96. You get the idea. There's South Carolina, there's Arizona, there's Missouri, and there's Georgia. Again, with Obama campaign's East Coast strategy, you can kind of see it, the focus on Virginia and North Carolina. They tried to put South Carolina and Georgia in play for a while in 2008 before taking the resources and putting them in other places. But South Carolina is a state that's starting to come more and more to the center. There's a huge African-American voting bloc there, which helps Obama in that state, but it's still ultimately about white working class male voters having to go for Obama in bigger numbers than they did in 2008. Not just South Carolina, but around the country, but in South Carolina specifically. You look at Georgia. That's a state that McCain only carried by 5%. Obama did very well in very big areas like Atlanta. That's a state that campaign could potentially think with its 16 electoral votes, would look very nice in blue. Good old Jimmy Carter state. Arizona and Missouri. Arizona may not be an incredibly likely state to flip, but it's one that they made more competitive than it should have been in 2008, especially considering it was McCain's home state. And as the Hispanic population grows in that state, and some of the policies that the Republican Party have tried to push in terms of immigration and other matters that have been statistically very unpopular in the Hispanic community, the time may be right for the Obama campaign to try and swoop in, mind you, and try and steal away Arizona. And with Missouri, the show me state is always kind of an interesting battleground state. It could pull one way, it could pull another, and then all of a sudden, as the election comes close, it tends to be a very tight race. Tends to be. It sure as hell was in 2008, and I'd expect it to be again in 2012. I think the Obama team would really like to win Missouri. The ultimate question is, who will win the presidential election in 2012? And I think right now, if you're honest with yourself, a lot of the indicators, even with all the baggage and negativity that Obama brings in, and some of it very justifiably so, when you look at it from an electoral map standpoint, not from a popular vote standpoint, not from a national polling standpoint, but look at it state by state in the electoral map, which is ultimately the most important thing, it sure seems like right now that Barack Obama has a huge advantage heading into November. And I find it very hard to believe that Mitt Romney is going to be able to win Florida, where his message about reforming Social Security and Medicare is not going to play well in a state that has a very large senior population that clutches to things like Social Security and Medicare very closely. The fact that Obama's approval rating is not that great, yet Romney isn't leading in the electoral map or hasn't made up more ground, I think is another troubling sign. The fact that Obama was able to take so many states and flip them blue in 2008 gives him a lot of wiggle room this time around. The Republicans can't play the neocon card, the fear card, because under Obama's watch, Osama bin Laden was killed. So there's all these things that just point to, being in Obama's favor. So if I had to say right now, I would think out of the toss-up states, Obama's probably going to win Florida. I think he desperately would want to and will end up barely winning Iowa, because that was a state that really started his whole campaign off in 2008. So I think there's a pride factor there. I think he'll hold on and win Colorado, Nevada, Ohio, Virginia, and Wisconsin. And I think Romney may pluck away North Carolina. And I think the final electoral total will be somewhere around 331 to 207 in favor of Barack Obama. And he would go on and win a second term as President of the United States. Now, sure, some of you may not like to hear this. Some of you may think that Obama has a bigger lead. Some of you may think that Romney's ahead. I'm just basing it off of the data that I see, using some common sense here, going off of the history of what happened in 2008. Yes, I realize some things point negatively for Barack Obama right now. But when you look at the electoral map, you really see that they really point negatively towards Mitt Romney. They really do. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you expect to happen on Election Day 2012. Will Barack Obama remain our president, or will Mitt Romney become the 45th president of the United States? I'm the Schleg Daddy, and hopefully I'll have a few more political videos up in the course of the next few weeks leading up to the 2012 presidential election.